Hello.
Thanks for coming into the den,
Yes.
the lair.
Yes, the lair.
The
Oh, I
lair.
like that.
What I was trying to, I was about to start outside, and then I was like, pause, hold this until the cameras are rolling.
Yeah.
So I came to your class. I was about to say service on Sunday.
A lot of people call it that.
It is
actually.
that.
Yes.
It is a service.
Yeah.
And the theme that you had that day was authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
And you had a quote. It was a Zach Bush quote.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, would you mind just repeating that quote? And I'm going to go straight into it. And just say, hey.
Yeah, that's perfect. I love that. I love when the synchronicities happen. But Zach Bush, who I actually was able to hang out with in Bali, which was kind of random. Like we made our own signature fragrances together. Authenticity, right? And so I came across this quote from him, and he said that he'd been part of a human study, and he said that in that study that the emotion of authenticity, of feeling authentic, is 40 times greater than feeling just a sense of overall love. And to me, that makes a lot of sense, because a lot of times we try to receive love from the external source, right? Where we're trying to be accepted, fitting in, like if I do this, then so-and-so will love me type of thing. And we all want that validation, right? We all want that kind of external love. That's our human nature. But authenticity, right, is the ultimate self-love, right? Because you're fully being in your truth. You're fully being in your honest, true self. And you're not trying to get that from somewhere else, but you're just landing into who you are. And that is like radical self-acceptance. That's the highest form of love. So of course, to me, I was like, that makes so much sense. It's going to feel 40 times greater than feeling loved by maybe something outside of you.
Mm. It's funny. I was actually thinking about that today because so you're the fourth person I've had a conversation with here. We kicked off last week, and I was just sharing. It feels like how we got to even having a room or a studio and cameras and a thing and a microphone.
Yeah,
it kind of happened before I could even think about it, and that's part of the fun and the magic of synchronicities or the creative flow. But I caught myself of today. I was so in my head of who am I supposed to have on the, like, come and do this thing, because I have this studio for a month, and I was so in my head about it, and to the point where I was just kind of having a bit of a moment around it. And then I heard the authenticity piece. I was like, oh yeah, of course this makes sense, but that's the conversation today, because the authenticity piece for me is like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing all the time, basically.
Right.
And I think one of the tangents that I love about your story, and I think there's a couple of tangents I'd like to explore, is one, you went from corporate life to, well, it's a different, very different, but a successful business kind of life. Mm-hmm. But then it's also like, how do you do that from a place of, white knuckle ride? Is everything going to come crashing in? What's happening there?
Yes.
So I think starting from the corporate place, yes, you were an accountant, and I...
Yes. I mean, talk about corporate. Like, I was like the ultimate corporate. Like, I was a CPA for 15 years. And yeah, I rode that corporate ladder like on my way to partner, and then ended up getting pulled away from one of the partners in the firm. He went off to another company, and he dragged me over, and which I'm so happy that he did, because really that's what halted that kind of corporate ladder, like get up there so that you could be a partner and like be at this highest level of what we think success is supposed to be. But that was my conditioning, like most of us. Like that's a lot of us, what we are taught is to go into that corporate arena or get this high form of, success from a job or a career. And for me, once I left being a CPA, I was a CPA, but like in public accounting, there's different sectors of accounting. And I left and went to work for him in a private sector. got my master's in tags, which is
I
wild.
did not know that.
I have a master's in
I need to
tags.
come to you for tax season and ask you.
Don't ask me.
Okay.
I went through a period where I continued on doing that, and I am very good at it. I do my own, and I do all my own books still, because it's a very, very amazing skill to have in running business as an entrepreneur. That's what makes me a little bit of a unicorn, because not many yoga studio owners have a master's in tax and no business. But anyway, I have to chuckle every time I say that I have a master's in tax, because it's like such a different, I'm in such a different space in my life than that. But again, it truly helped me. But once I moved over with him in the private sector and got my master's of tax, and I kind of really, like, I was a tax director. Like, I had the name on the door. Like,
This is so fun. Were you even practicing yoga at this point, or like, or was this just a totally different life that you had?
it was totally different.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, at the time I lived in suburbia of Seattle. Like, I literally had the white picket fence, like the house, the car, the kid, the dog, the marriage, like the whole thing of like literally the American dream of what we're taught in America, right? And I got to this point, and then finally I was able to kind of open myself up once I moved out of that fast track of like climbing the ladder. And then I was just like, oh God, like this can't be my life. Like, this is not it. And interestingly, I think we all have a little bit moments in time where we are reflected our true self. And I can look back at so many little glimpses of myself that always were kind of steering me, showing myself as a community leader, as a leader in general, just developing people and bringing people together and having a voice. But it just kept getting sidestepped into this like box that we get to be put in that's not authentic, right? It's somebody else's rules. It's somebody else's projection of what we think that we're supposed to be. So I kept like seeing glimpses of myself, but going back into that box. But then it just became so loud. And it became so loud when I started to really look inward.
And what did that manifest? What did that loudness look like for you?
So I was at that quandary that oftentimes we get around in our young 30s. You know, I've seen it so many times now where you're asked that question, like who are you? And who are you? Who are you really? And who do you want to be? Because we're no longer in our 20s where we're still trying to like fit in and figure it out. You know, we're no longer with our parents, hopefully. And, you know, we're really truly being like, okay, where's my life going? And that's when we have to have the courage to actually take the call or skip it for another 20 years, because then I feel like the next call comes around 50s or
two calls in life with three.
Yeah, like exactly. Yeah. And then usually it's like that call is the young 30s, and you may or may not have got married or had kids or whatever. And so that's a hard one. It's a really, really transformative, brave one, because a lot of times, like I know I was married with a child. Yeah, when I had the call. So a lot of times why we don't choose to is that we use that as like, I got to stay for my kids. I got to do this, you know, like I'm invested in my marriage or whatever our story is. And that's when the second call usually comes, is like when the children are finally grown and you're like left with this person that you're like, who are you? You know, as like a spouse or whatever, or whatever it is that you stayed. But for me, I really looked inward, and I was like, I started going to therapy. And I started doing I found my way back to dance, which ultimately led me to yoga. And then that is when it got really loud. So yoga is the thing that changed my life. I mean, it literally gave me the moment to be quiet for 2 minutes in Shavasana, right? To then let the loudness be listened to. Because you know, other than that, I was a CPA. I was so type A. I was so controlling. It was so dysfunctional, but like in a society that really encourages and really, you know, elevates that like control of like what success is, but it's not. It's so dysfunctional, right? Like it just looks in a different form. But I wasn't being true. I was fully operating out of fear of abandonment because that's like my root issue. So I was like controlling my environment, doing everything perfectly and doing, everything as that I'm told to do so that ultimately I wouldn't be left again. But then I had to reframe that story. And that's when self-inquiry started to come through. And that's where I had to get quiet. And that's when I had to go into therapy. And that's when I had to like move my body and move energy and like have those, when that deeper question is like, who are you, Leah? And are you really in your purpose in the world? And it was so clear to me that I needed to change and I needed to take the leap and jump. When I was 16 years old, I had a woman that read my palm, and of course back then I didn't know anything about that. And when she read my palm, she looked up for me and she literally had big tears coming down her face, which is scary for a 16-year-old. Yeah. I was like, what did you see?
Did you see my death?
Exactly. Yeah. And she just looked at me and she says, you're going to help so many people in this world. And that stayed with me as a 16-year. And again, though, that was like a glimpse of myself of like, I knew I was meant for something big. I knew it in my heart. And so this was kind of that moment of like, I know where I am right now is not what that woman meant. Like, this isn't it. I know I'm supposed to help people, not by doing their taxes.
It's funny, those moments. I remember, that whole story I just relate to so much. I'm now 35, and the last 6-7 years have just been a moment of total reckoning to the place where I do feel that now I can say, like you, I made some choices which got me on this place of, I have a direction in the world and everything that ain't it had to go. But I remember, I think it was when I just moved out here, so kind of nearly 10 years ago, I got a numerology reading, and I'd never had a reading like that before. And she's this there's a lady called Pam down in nearly San Diego, Solana Beach. She's amazing. She's still around. I went recently. And what she was describing to me, she was seeing me for the first time. And yes, there's a level that you can interpret it in whatever way you want. But I think that's the beauty of experiences like that. And that can come in so many forms, whether it's not like a, mystical reading or whatever, or someone just sees you. Like, we always want to be seen and heard. And having someone who I didn't know, but through whatever means, able to say words which felt like they resonated at something in my being. It was like that sprinkle of just like, maybe there is a different way. Maybe I'm not supposed to be in this corporate job doing recruiting sales, which is ironic because I'm actually doing that now, but loving it in a different way. But I love that. It's just, and so what happened? How did you go set fire to everything?
Oh God. In true Leah fashion is I'm by nature fire. So it was a fire. And when I make a decision, I make a decision. And so it was very quick. And a lot of people thought that I was going through a midlife crisis at 32, whatever it was. Because again, the out picture, I looked so much like I had it all going on, right? Like this perfect out picture. And so people just couldn't understand why I was leaving and leaving the life that I built, right? Because it wasn't just my job. Like, I left my marriage, I left familial relationships I left longtime friendships. I really truly shed. I really, really burned down to then rise back again. And it was the Kickstarter for a life of transformation over and over and over again, right? So it wasn't that was my first moment. I call myself in versions, right? Like Leah version 1.0 was that 32-year-old, and like now all these years later, I'm 8, Leah version 8.
Oh, wait, yeah,
yes,
wow.
Yeah, I'm on 8. Yes, wow. Yes. So, yeah, which is insane.
I think about just even 6 months ago, the version that I was. So I get it. I get these versions, and it's almost like this drug addiction for growth and change, which is now, once you've tasted it, you're like, the expansion and the totally different version of yourself that you can meet is, I mean, I don't want anything else other than to meet who is in me.
Exactly. But I think where that also comes from is we're developing that muscle of courage, right? Like it truly is courageous and brave to take that leap, to continue to, because again, our conditioning is we're taught to get to a certain place and just start to settle down, right? Like reach this destination and then you're at your peak, and like then just like wait to die, which I think is like so weird. It's like so much of our conditioning. I'm just like, what? Like, where does that even come from?
The women thing as well. I think I'm suddenly getting hit with all the anti-aging ads everywhere,
right.
and there's this idea of like, as a woman past a certain age, you're worthless.
Yeah,
it's just such a what? Wait to die.
I know, wait to die, and there's so much of that in so many levels about like our conditioning is around like, you know, putting out the fire of your passion and settling down. And it's just like, no, like for me, the more I do, the more the stronger I get in my brave sense, right?
Yeah.
So I don't, it's almost like for me, because you were saying you kind of get this addiction to self-growth. I'm just like, for me, it's like I look at it in the way of framing fear of like, I just get less fearful.
I like that.
I get less fearful because I've been through so many things that have been just so scary, you know, and walking through those fears to literally none of the fears coming true. So when you don't succumb to fear, then you're willing to go after whatever it is. Because that's why we don't do things, right? We're afraid to fail, right?
Yeah.
Back to the authenticity thing, right? It's like so much of us know the truth of what we want, the passions and desires of our heart is like, and we don't allow ourselves to authentically create and shine and be that because we're so freaking afraid of failure, of judgment, of not being liked, of not being loved, right? But like the more that you put yourself out there and ride through those fears and you're like, none of those fears came true. And I did what was true for me. I did my authenticity. There's the 40 times. There's that 40 times sense of power, of elevated emotion of like, I did it. I know the truth. Like, fuck fear.
And it's a muscle. And, you know, but yes, everything that you're saying, like, yes, this is so great. Thanks. That's such a great bit. Okay, that's going to be a clip. But, you know, what's terrifying for one person? I remember at one point, I wouldn't go and sit and have dinner by myself in a restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
Like at one point, that was like scary.
Totally.
You know? And I'm like, get away from me, let me go do that the whole time. That's all I do. But like our levels of fear of what becomes, you know, it's singing on stage now. Like it's just become, okay, yes, I might still get the nerves a little bit, yes. But it's just a muscle that just came and just like this growth edge. And I think it's, you know, this, what I find interesting, it's funny actually what the this theme around just what people think has come up in basically all your conversations so far, because I think that's what our limitation is. Yeah. So I personally have been so afraid, and I still am, you know, there's still an edge here of like, okay, I have to make this thing perfect. I have to control it all the ways that I think, because what will people think? And I like how you just described, you know, that whole dynamic, and it's I see those 8 versions of you as just like giving less fucks about what people think.
Absolutely.
What does version 15 look like?
Oh, which is so cool to really actually not know, because you know what I mean? If I would have asked Leah version 1.0, Leah, who's Leah version 8.0, like there's no way in hell I would have been able to forecast who I am right now. So, which is so exciting because, again, just kind of like what I spoke about before, so often we're trying to hit this destination. And that's what I was doing before in Leah version 1.0. It was like, climb that corporate ladder, get that name on the door, get that thing so I can settle down and wait to die, right?
Yeah.
But now I'm just like, I have no idea, and I am so excited about not having any idea of what's going on, right?
I have no idea who's about to walk in.
Yeah, who's behind the curtain, right?
What's that?
Yeah, but I mean, of course I have aspirations, and especially since I am in my truth right now, I'm in my purpose, I'm living authentically. But there's when you finally get to your essence of your truth, the outlets of creativity become limitless. On a daily basis, especially as an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
Right. I'm no longer in corporate America. I own 3 yoga studios, right? Yoga entrepreneurship is my life. And through that and building community, every single day, I'm hit with different ways of new possibility and creativity. And whatever is going to stick, I'm not really sure yet.
Yeah.
But I mean, I had aspirations of living in California since I was 4 years old. And Venice Beach was one of the places, especially in the probably 15 years ago, when I met a cohort who had lived in Venice Beach, and he talked it up so much that it kind of started manifesting. And I'm and here I am. I just didn't, it's again, I can look back and be oh yeah, it was always in me. But that's life, right? I love that quote of life is lived forward, but understood in reverse.
I like that. Yeah.
Because it's so true. It's I can look back at so many things that I've been through, or the signs that I've seen, or the little glimpses of myself from very little Leah, all the way through of oh, there I was. Oh, there I was. Oh, that's why that happened. That's why that happened. Because I am aware of those things too, I am now actually more open to seeing them quicker. So I'm a very much a yes person. So as these new opportunities and creativity opportunities come up, I am yes. When you ask me, I'm yes. I never know what the next door is going to open that could potentially be my next thing to help elevate and grow my purpose in the world,
which is service. That's kind of
100%.
I mean, everything that you're saying, I just relate to so much. And it, even the yoga studios, that's just a vessel to do all the other things. I see my recruiting business and my work as a vessel to do. It's almost some tangible thing that people, I don't know, they're oh, okay, well that means you're doing this thing, pays the bills, brings in some money. And then, as you say, just there's no limit to how many branches this can grow. And at one point that was terrifying, but there was there's been a shift of I don't know. I don't really know who I'm, as I said, supposed to have in here, but piece by piece it's getting revealed. And then it's oh yeah, the pieces were always there. But I think if you told this to me before I started this journey, I don't think I could ever. I think so many people are asking what's my purpose? What's this thing? And what would you say to that? What would you say to people who are saying maybe they're in the corporate game, they're at a place where they're maybe this isn't it. I don't know what this thing is. I'm seeing people on their internet talk about purpose, but they have no idea what that is.
Yeah. I mean, because really that is a lot of the quandary, for people, especially as a yoga teacher and the way that I teach is I think people question themselves a lot. I don't know that. Yeah. But I bring it back to fear, that I think a lot of people are just so distracted by their fears that they are not allowing the awareness of their truth to fully be realized. I think that's that way for their purpose. I think that way about intuition, right? Higher level consciousness is because we're shielded by so much shit, essentially. And a lot of that starts from your root, starts from where you've been, what your experiences have been in your life, what things haven't you looked at that keep you bogged down in a box, because the box is the control, And it's the safety of playing it safe. It's not true safety. It's not true safety. True safety is when you're rooted in yourself and you understand who you are and you're in your authenticity. But playing it safe is succumbing to the fears and being like, I'm just going to stay here. I'm going to shrink. I'm going to be small. And I'm going to keep doing this thing over here because I don't know any other way. So for me, it's like, you have to be willing to ask yourself the deeper questions. You have to be willing to go and look at the hard stuff that you don't want to look at. You got to actually do some work around the people. Who are you hanging around with? Are you still listening to your mother and what she wants for your life? And I mean, I say that halfway joking, but not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, yes, we love our parents. Yes, they raised us, but like, we as adults have every right to say, that's not right for me anymore.
Yeah.
And we get stuck in the old patterns of like, oh, I can't do that. Like, my parents would never approve of that. Like, okay, so whose truth are you living? There's the authenticity again.
People aren't living it. I mean, this is kind of my theory about this whole series, these whole topics, is that I'm not a fan of the term mental health because I think it implies there's something wrong with us, but we are, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're having a mental health crisis. Like the number of people I know who are depressed, have anxiety, panic attacks, are on medication, the whole thing. And, you know, there's all these mental health budgets everywhere, you know, companies trying to solve it. Everything, you know, everyone's trying to solve the thing. And I'm convinced that at least 90% of all those challenges is because people are not experiencing what you just described, is that sense of living in defiance of everything that we've been told. And that's really as I say, this is one of my visions for what this could be. Whether that transpires into that, I don't know, because I'm just following this breadcrumb trail. But I think this idea that we've been told that there's something wrong with you, therefore here's a prescription pill, or therefore here's talk therapy. And there are times and places for those. Neither one of those served me. What did serve me is kind of the same journey that you described, which was getting in my body and actually starting to defy all these ideas of what I had been told and taught I was supposed to be, to the point where people thought I was crazy. I thought I was crazy.
Yeah. And
I now don't care anymore because that feeling of living at that place, I'm not going to say it's never there. Like today, I had this moment of deep insecurity about what the hell am I doing in my life? But I had the tools to come back to and actually ground and all this stuff. So that's my theory about this whole mental health world and this crisis that we're in, this epidemic of. I love that you all came. Here's a question: is like, when you started doing yoga, did you know that, okay, well now that I found this thing which makes me feel good, and now my purpose and my vision is to go have 3 yoga studios?
Definitely not. I mean, it was one of those things that, you know, I started practicing it and I felt it. So, you know, and I want to be honest too. It's like, it's not just yoga, right? Like there was such an alchemy of transformation that was happening. Like I was already shifting. I was like, you know, I was getting into my body in other ways, like I mentioned, through dance. And so I was priming myself, and then I started asking these questions, and I was really starting to get real with myself, and also understanding like how miserable I was. You know, I really wasn't happy, and I had done everything that everybody had told me to do. And so I was like, I have to do something different. So it was like all these things that I was exploring just alchemized, but it was sitting on the bench with my aunt after a sweaty hot yoga class that I literally came out and said, I have to change my life. I have to change my life. And from that moment on, it was like, okay, I'm going to change my life. And then it was like literally that proclamation within 2 months was like, I'm sitting in my office, and the guy, my coworker next to me, he's like, we should open a yoga studio, because he knew my you know, passion for yoga, and he's miserable too. And so it was really kind of just dreaming, going to lunch and be like, let's escape corporate America and like create. And then one day he was like, hey, Leah, there's this place opening up in this neighborhood in Seattle. Let's go. And I thought we were literally going to go get coffee. You know, he's just like, let's go see it.
Little did you know.
Little did I know. But that's exactly, it was like, I walked in that room and I was like, this is it. This is my way. This is my way out and in and through. You know what I mean? Like I just knew it from every fiber of my being. That was just that moment. And that's what started it. And so I thought that I was going to open this yoga studio with this friend, coworker, and his best friend, and it was going to be my little side hustle, right? And especially because there was 3 of us that were going to open it together. You can't really make a living off a yoga studio. I mean, especially we had in my studio in Seattle are much smaller than the one that I had than here in Venice. The one in Venice is giant compared to the ones I have in Seattle. And so I just thought it was going to be my side hustle, but it was so clear, like within months. That's the thing about me, again, fire, right? Like once the fire starts to burn and I make the decision and I open that vessel, like stuff happens really fast because I will make the quick decisions and I will just shed, right? So when I made that decision, everything just started to burn, you know, and that's when I mean, literally I was getting divorced and, you know, opening a yoga studio and like moving out of my house and like doing all these things, having all these like cutting cords of relationships with parents and all these things all at once. I did stay in corporate America.
It sounds super stable.
Oh, honestly, it was one of the most uncertain, vulnerable times of my life, but I still will look back in the first vision of I will always see in my head is me in this basement of this apartment that I rented, dancing in the mirror and just feeling completely free.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah.
And it's just like, that's the authentic. It's like, I don't care. Like, I just don't care anymore. Like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I do.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I do know. All I know is I'm going to be free.
There's a theme that I find with people who are on the path, you know, the path of authenticity or truth is just there's a willingness and acceptance that there's essentially nothing they're not willing to let go of. And that's it. It's just like the shedding. There's nothing. You're on this path, and even people that are closest to you or a home that you love, or back in January, I was getting ready to give up LA because I was like, visa, the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, okay, if this is the direction.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the theme again and again. You just get used to trusting that even though it's the thing that I'm guessing at some point, 31-year-old version of you wouldn't have said, yeah, I'll give up the marriage and give up the house and give up the whole white picket fence. That wouldn't have been a possibility, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And now, like when that kind of big stuff is like, yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah.
But it's just this willingness to let go of it. If it's so clear in you, it's like, okay, this is the direction.
Well, and I can also look at this version of myself now and be like, all of those other moments of those letting go, right? Of letting go of all of that cultivated me for bigger things later. So, you know, fast forward 15 years and I'm down here opening in my 3rd yoga studio, coming down from Seattle, March 21st, 2020, literally on the plane when we go on lockdown. And I'm opening this 5,600 square foot yoga studio on the beach. Like, holy shit, right? Like, but there was the moment again. We were faced with all of these things that we were faced with around all of the things that they were trying to make us do.
But you stayed open.
I did. Yeah. I stayed open. I did a lot. I went rogue and because I'm freedom. And that was my truth. I'm like, I am sorry, but I cannot make people do things that they don't want to do. I cannot and I will not. And I literally said, I would rather die. I would rather die. I would rather be shut down. I would rather whatever. Because this is not my truth. I can't do that. I spent over a decade diminishing those fears and becoming who I am. I am not going to be in this ether of what could be, because that's what fear is. What if this? What if that? People coming in like, oh, Leah, what if they shut you down? What if they take away your business license? Whatever. I'm like, well, then let them do that. And until they do, I'm going to proceed. And not in a way, I was very mindful, and I was not like, I was very, listening and intuitive. So it wasn't like, it was not a dangerous situation at all. Like, I was watching so carefully everything that I was doing. I mean, for the most part, like that first 6 months we were outside, I was just doing things where I didn't close. I stayed open. I did whatever it could to keep people safe and also be able to stay connected and also live my truth. And what I learned from that is none of the things that people told me came true. Not one, not one. I was not fined. I was not nothing. Like I had some people come through every once in a while and said, will you hang this little flyer in your window to wear a mask? I'm like, great. Stuck it on the window, and that didn't make anybody do it, but like I just did. But again, and like here we are now. Like, look what we know now. And I'm like, I am so grateful that I listened to me, to my truth, and to my intuition and my knowing, and what has been created from that. Do you know, people came to me during that and said it was saving their life.
Yeah.
How could I close when it was saving people's lives?
Well, we now know that just the detrimental effects of disconnection.
100%.
And that's far more, in my opinion, disastrous than whatever physical thing was happening.
100%. So, and I mean, that was a time that, people were just desperate for that. And I was going to be that. And I was. But to go back to what we were talking about before, but that was the thing, is like, my muscles were strong.
Yeah.
In courage. Like, I had done all these other things that said, I'm going to do these things even in spite of what people might think of me or what the ramifications are, because I don't know the outcome, but I know what my truth is. And I am listening so hard, and I'm paying so close attention, and I care so much, and everything I'm doing is out of love. It's out of true good intention. It's not because of money. It's not because of my own personal, stuff. It's literally for the good of others. Right. And so, and again, that's the thing, is like, you get to a point where like, I don't care. Like I literally was I I don't care what, like, if I die, I die. Like I'm okay.
I mean, I think about that time, it's obviously, it still is a sensitive topic, to talk about. And I didn't know that you guys were
so many people say that to me. They're like, I wish you would have.
But I think about that time and just the courage to be able to be in that place of not giving a shit what other people think about you. That's just, it fills me with awe of, those are the people that I want to be surrounded with. Because, we live in this society of conformity, whatever that looks like, on whatever topic or religion or politics, whatever. We live in this world where, our clickbait is encouraging us to conform. And because we have to be perceived a certain way so that we're safe. And so to have that level of individuality and connection to your own truth, where you are in that time and place to be able to do that and like not give a shit, like that to me is fire. And I'm like, that's what I want. Like, that's who I want to be. That's like my direction of like, I want to be at that place where I don't give a shit. And it's not that I don't care.
Right.
But it's I'm not living my life based on what other people.
Absolutely.
Because I have community and I have people in my life who I do get counsel from. I have a relationship with my God, my higher power. And I'm able to get quiet in my head. And to a lot of people, that's like, well, that's so self-centered and selfish.
Exactly.
I don't care.
But that's because that's not where they're at.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, okay, and look at what I do for a living too. And I'm also trying to be a living example. So that is how I teach. I teach through my own experience. I teach from, I'm not teaching people in platitudes based on like what the shoulds of the world. I'm teaching based on my experience. So if I am telling people be brave and I'm not being brave, like, then I'm contradicting myself.
You had I can't, I'm sorry for cutting you off, but there was a story when I saw you for coffee like a year or two ago. There was a story at the time of the financial fear of there was, and I can't remember the details of it, but there was this point where and kind of that was the message that I was really holding, bringing you in here, is like, how do you build a business on faith? You know, especially when there's money and there's clients and you got to make the rent and there's a whole thing. But yeah, do you know the one I'm talking about?
I mean, I know what you're talking about as far as like those feelings. I don't know if the exact story.
Okay.
There's a lot around the financial stuff, but
how do you navigate that?
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it's been huge, like as far as, especially with the pandemic, like financial, that's a big thing for a lot of people, fear of, finances, right? It's like, that's one of the number one drivers of fear of like what keeps us from being held back is like, do I have the resources? Do I have the money? And then if I fail, am I going to lose everything and end up on the street and die, right? Like this, like the whole catastrophic mindset.
Waiting to die.
Waiting to die. I mean, like, that's it. I mean, it's such an interesting thing. But so for me, I have, again, I'm savvy business-wise. I'm resourceful and I'm scrappy and I'm heavily involved. So that's going for me, right? So like at all times, I understand my financials. I understand my cash flow. I understand what's going on in my businesses. So again, I have a leg up than a lot of people that don't know business or they're in their passion of their creativity, but they have accountants, they have other people doing their stuff. So, but while I have that, the bigger thing is my faith in trust and listening into my intuition and saying the yeses and really staying open to the signposts. I always think of that movie, Bruce Almighty, like the signs, like they are everywhere.
Yeah.
They are everywhere. And you have no idea what form it's going to come in. And so I'm like, I really truly believe that. I was like, the messages are coming, but so again, often from our own fears and our own lacking minds, we're like, oh, that's not going to pan out, or that's not going to do that. That's not for me. But it's like, you could have just went there and like been open to a whole new opportunity. So for me, that's really what it has been. And I'm telling you what, I am not lying. Every time I have been so squeezed where I'm just like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay the rent, pay payroll. What's the next step? I'm not kidding. Oh, some sort of resource comes my way. Some sort of, person that's going to help facilitate, some person that comes in and says, oh, I can help you try to get a loan or what, something. And it's a lot of times it's not a direct through line, right? But oftentimes it's a person opening that door to give hope.
Yeah.
Of like, I can help you. Let me show you this way. And even though those ways don't pan out, I have opened my heart to hope and possibility. And then I've ended up finding my own way, which is so interesting. And then I end up getting the resources that I need. But everybody knows this. I mean, like, it's hard to make it in LA. And LA is it's so hard. And it's expensive. And it's like, there's so much here. And this is the mecca of the mecca of the mecca of all creativity and everything. It's just really difficult. And it's no joke. But that's what, every time I'm just like, it's the affirmation of, again, like when you are living authentically and living your purpose, over and over again, I'm just like, this life is not a coincidence. I am going to be supported because I continue to be supported, because I keep saying yes, and because I am living authentically, that I am going to be shown support from the universe, God, whatever it is that you believe. But people are there, and people, like, it's like the people that have stepped up for me are, most of them are like not the ones that I would have ever expected in a million years. I'm like, wait, what? You're gonna loan me 50 grand? Like, you hardly know me. But they know what I'm trying to do. and they believe in my vision. And I just say, thank you. And also my willingness to put myself out there and be vulnerable. You know, hey, I'm opening a studio in Venice. I need investors, you know, and just putting it out there was just like all of a sudden it's just like here's all these little things that come through that I just would never have imagined. But
I think it's this idea of you know, this willingness is all we need. You know, there's a desire in you to do whatever, change your life, and it's almost like things happen that we can never even imagine, and it's that door that opens for us. I was super depressed in my London job in 2016, and so I woke up one day and I was just like, I'm done. And I handed in my notice and it felt like total freedom. And then my CEO turned around and said, hey, how do you feel about setting up the LA office with Tom, my friend? I was like, LA? There's just going to be like fast cars in Hollywood. But okay, I'll give it a go. But like that could never have happened until I was willing to just do the next thing.
Exactly.
This idea of faith, I mean, was that always in you?
So yes, I'm going to say yes right off the cuff, just from how I was as a young child. My upbringing, I was always in a really spiritual family, not dogmatic, but spiritual. And my father actually, while I had a very tumultuous childhood, he has been the phoenix that rose from the ashes, and I'm definitely of him. And he's super spiritual, and he actually ended up being at a certain point of his life he was a preacher. And so like the whole service, you know, like how I see it, the whole, like I feel my grandmother on my dad's side and my grandfather on my dad's side were also doctor and mental health nurse. So pioneers in the wellness industry back in their day, like kind of famous. I mean, like wellness, like my grandfather was like a famous surgeon, like they were on the front page of Christmas morning and stuff like that, like interesting stuff like that, right? So I know that that's kind of in my ancestry, like in my blood. But I had a very, very, very tumultuous childhood because my dad was an alcoholic. So I didn't really have that stable foundation as a young girl. And so faith, I was living more out of fear than faith at that time. But then as I grew into adulthood, it kind of came back in high school, and then it just started to really emerge in myself when I became authentic. Like, this is who I am. I am a spiritual being. Like I lean into faith of spirit, of bigger than me, and it doesn't, and it looks in a lot of different forms, but to me it feels really spacious and accentuating and complementary to everything that I do. And it also, I just feel like I'm a channel for something bigger.
Yeah.
That also, when you really hold on to that, it also helps you let go and not attach even more, because it's like, if this is not mine, you know, like this is just my thing. It's like, no, this is something bigger, and I am here to do something that it's like I surrender to that, you know, like
it gets so much easier. Like every time I get in my head about whatever I'm doing, whether it's work or this, it's because I'm thinking it's something I need to do or fix or control. And the minute, like when I started, I had a big show a couple of years ago in Topanga, music. And the way that I prepped for that, I was like, this isn't my show. This is God, universe.
Yeah.
You know, this is God's show. Mm-hmm. You take the wheel. Literally, you take the wheel. And the same with this, that it's just like this navigation of like catching myself. Today I had to catch myself and be like, it's not yours, Hol. This ain't your deal. Get over yourself.
Totally.
Like, this is God's content. You got whoever you're supposed to have in.
Yeah.
And it feels, you know, I hesitate saying God sometimes because just this, what will people think? And then, if I just had like a fiery spirit reminder to thank you of like, I don't give a shit what people think about that anymore. That has been such a big part of my life. And it's, I mean, this whole thing is just, I don't know where I was going with that. I lost it. But it's a journey,
It is.
this whole
Well,
process.
yeah. I mean, I think if we had more faith in the world, right? If we, again, faith is believing in the unseen, the unknown. It's like, and living more in the felt body, right? And intuition and great inner knowing in the divine spirit within you. And once again, in order to get there, we got to remove the sheaths, the layers of all of the shit that created fear within you. A bad experience, a judgment, right? Dogma, whatever it is. Again, we can't be fully authentic in our spirit, in our soul's essence, if we're living in a place of fear. God doesn't know that. Fear is a learned thing. Love is innate, right? So that's and even if people are like, oh, why'd you say God? It's just because they have their own shit around it.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like we're telling you, and it's probably because they've had a bad experience of religion or dogma or abuse even, right? Have been traumatized. So many people have been traumatized by spiritual action. And it's so sad. But like when you can like heal yourself, deal with yourself, feel the things you need to feel, then you're going to be an open channel to spirit and whatever that looks like for you. And that's authenticity. Like your God, your spirit, your whatever it is such a different thing for you than it is for me.
Yeah.
And that's like, how beautiful is that? That's the holiness of it, right? That's like and when I say holy,
you mean me?
W, like, like WOL, the whole
collective. Ayo. But it is that. It's this, the idea. I was actually having this conversation with Steve, who'll be on here next week. That this magnetic thing that I feel when I meet people like you and other people who I'll have in here, it's this unspoken, unwritten thing that I describe as, it's not the light so much as like this rainbow stuff. It's like the thing that attracts me is like, oh, it's their capacity to hold the unknown and the pain and the suffering, because I think those go hand in hand. And our capacity for joy is equal to our capacity for pain. And so when I have that magnetic, oh yeah, just like on the same page, resonating, there's that piece that I know intellectually is the thing. It's like, oh, we can go there because we can play off in the like, oh, it's all light and sunshine, because we're like, yeah, but we could die any second.
Exactly. But that's what I love about life now, is that, again, conformity is trying to keep us in the middle. And in the middle is neutrality. In the middle is indecision.
Gray.
Is gray. It's stunted. And I'm like, oh, I'm done with that. I did that. And it is soul sucking. It is really making you die, right? Like maybe not physically, but literally in your spirit. And then ultimately will manifest into disease and help you die physically. But so for me, I'm like, no, I want to live in the highs and lows. Like I want to live in these high spaces of great, great joy, because I have felt the deepest, most scary, most shitty shit of shit. But that's what helps us find our truth. Where have you risen from the muck to become the lotus, right? The dirt from the lotus, right? Rising up into being into that person that you are now. You cannot know that if you're gonna stay playing it safe.
I really like that visual.
Numbing out.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it's doing, because like I didn't know how to experience the highs because I wasn't willing. I only escaped out of the lows through whatever substance or escape mechanism. But I also, with that visual, I just saw this kind of small grey centre where we're trying to spin that conformity. And then, me too, I want to have this, big, expansive life. But the additional layer in there is also having equanimity. Because I think when I started to have these high highs and low lows, they were so destabilizing because I thought, oh my God, I'm going to die and it's never going to end. And then this, oh my God, this like,
Yeah.
And so it is, I think that's like what I'm finding is what I'm navigating now is like, how do I have, life is getting bigger, but how do I stay in that, I guess the perspective, I don't know, I'll sit with that for a second, but it's this trying to be in that equanimity place, but also still being able to touch the edges as far as it can go. I don't know what I'm doing.
But the more we just right, is like kind of back to that, like, what's version 15 look like? Who the hell knows, right? Like, we just keep going through whatever we know to be most true for us right now, today, this moment, this breath, and then we keep after it, and it just keeps revealing itself into like the most wild, crazy life possible. Like I literally, I'm like, sometimes I have to sit back and be like, Leah, like, look where you are, look where you've come, like, look what you've done, and again, and I have to take those moments back because I do spend so much time of just like being in the vessel of who I am, like not grasping onto like it, but we do as humans, and also just like take a moment and just like look at what has happened and where you are and all of the moments that have led up to this to be where you are so that you can help others. Like really ultimately it's like to continue to be in my purpose in the world, to show people. I mean, ultimately that's why I'm doing all this. Like, I want people to feel what I feel.
Same.
I just like, please, if I can help anybody get away from Leah version 1.0's feeling, like, I'm all about it. Like, that's what I want. I want people to, and we need it more than ever now. We know this. Like, we are in AI world now.
Yeah.
So we need authenticity. Like, it's gonna be such a weird thing. But people are gonna start to crave it and crave it and crave it even more.
It stands out. We're gonna wrap in a sec, but it stands out like a beacon because you can see it now. Like, it's especially on certain platforms like LinkedIn, Instagram, it's like, oh, there's like an authenticity that is like that. I want real. We're so done with the filters. We're so done with everything that was like this facade of what we're supposed to do, how the corporate life is supposed to be. The question I'm trying to ask everyone, but I feel like we covered it, but here we are, is what makes you hopeful about? What are you hopeful for today?
I think, and what I get to do for a living. I mean, every single day I walk into my studios and I get to be with humans. I get to be in connection with people. And ultimately, that's what gives me hope, is that I know that that is ultimately what is the driver of humanity, And so if I can be a facilitator of that, and if I can make my impact and then my imprint on that to continue to have people have in-person conversations, to develop friendships, to be willing to be vulnerable with each other, to love each other and accept each other, and lean into those vulnerabilities and those fears, like, ultimately that's what gives me hope. When I see the human spirit prevail over inauthenticity, right, and the ethers of whatever in the hell goes on throughout this world, I mean, that's what gives me hope, every day. And I wouldn't be here in the way that I am now if I didn't have that hope with me the whole time, because that's what got me through,
Thank you.
You're welcome. So great to be here.
That was so fun.
Yeah.
That was so fun. That was like, yeah.
I know. I feel like I could talk. I mean, that's why I love doing podcasts. I just love having these conversations because it's not only for, to help but it reignites my own inspiration within, It's like every time I proclaim my passion, and my desire, it just fuels it more. And then it gets to get broadcasted out to the world, and whoever can hear it, and who knows will hear it.
Yeah.
That's impact.
It's an electrifying, there's that permission slip that we get to be for each other. And I think it is all frequency and energy stuff. It's all just
100%.
Just even being in someone else's presence, there's a thing that happens. And, the number of times I've seen something online or heard something, it ignites something, and that's, to your point around not just this feeling that I love my life so much. I love my life. And that doesn't mean there's moments where I'm
of course,
what the fuck am I doing? But why the feeling of being alive, and I get to be alive and waking up, and why would I not want other people to feel that?
Exactly. And there's a lot of people that don't love their life.
And I hated my life. I wanted to peace out.
Yeah.
So I know it.
I know.
This is great. Thank you.
Yeah, I love chatting with you. It's easy. It's such a synergy.
Yeah, it's
between
Aquarian. Aquarian.
Exactly.